It will be mine. Oh yes, it will be mine.
Pick us! Video game transfer! Rush tricks! Live game hunting! Oh yeah!
Hello again folks and welcome back to another live game hunting video and a couple of spoilers for this week's episode. Firstly, I picked up this very classy t-shirt when I was out hunting this week. Yes, it is an official Xbox One. Yes, they did actually bring out this terrible design, but I just love how awful it is. Secondly, we do get another game off our 20 in 2022 list, so that's always a super exciting time to start guessing now which game we find. And final spoiler, we managed to pick up a game which I should have had for the Gamecube for so long. I think if you own a Gamecube, you have to have this game in your collection. But before we head out into the wild game hunting, I just want to remind you folks watching at home to like this video and also subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5 and I really want you along for the ride. Now, on to the hunt. Here we go then for another day of game hunting. We are straight into our first charity shop. This is a pretty big one. I don't normally have too much luck in here with games, but you know, with these places you just have to keep trying. The first thing I'm amazed by is how much VHS stuff they have in here. Like, less and less these days you are seeing VHS tapes in charity shops, and there were some really good ones in here. If I was still collecting VHS, yes, I'd have probably picked loads of these up, but as we're kind of trying to collection, it is one thing that I have not been collecting as much. But it was a cool surprise to see all these tapes nonetheless. Oh yes, here it is folks. Here is the t-shirt you saw me modelling just at the start of this video. This incredible official Xbox Pro Gamer t-shirt. It is so tacky and nasty. I just love it. Like, for this price, I'm definitely picking this up because, you know, you just can't put a price in high fashion like this. We've got to CX, and you know the first thing I'm going to check out is that window display, and this Tune Squad controller is really nice. Definitely tempting, but that price tag is pretty high. And one thing you don't see that often these days is some good collector's edition, and this Dead Space collector's edition was a really nice piece in the window. Pretty expensive, but a very cool piece nonetheless. I would really love to tell you I was going to pick up Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, but it was Zelda that I was looking for. I have been putting off getting this Zelda Collector's Edition for ages, and you know what? There was such a good collection of retro stuff in here this time. Sometimes this store is really hit and miss, but there's some awesome bits, such as for Marvel vs. Capcom for the Dreamcast. They even had a PlayStation TV, which, if you do not own a PlayStation Vita, is a fantastic way to play these games through your PlayStation 4, as well as seeing like Game Gears and loads of different models of the Game Boy. There was definitely some good retro on hand today. Some of the old Forza Motorsport games are definitely worth looking out for at the minute, as these are slowly coming off Games Pass due to car licensing laws. So yeah, keep an eye out for these. I don't know if they will go up in value over time, but if you want to play them, it's the best way to do them is picking up the copies in store. The Killer Instinct for the Xbox One is a confusing one because I know there's so many different versions of it, and I know some of these do not have all the fighters. So let me know in the comments down below if you know which version of this has all of the fighters on the disc, because I want to make sure I have everything, not just part. Another Xbox One exclusive, which I think a lot of people overlook, is Scream Ride. Yes, it might not be the deepest or most complex game of all time, but it is a little cool distraction piece. One game which I did pick up was Wasteland 2 Director's Cut. It is really good to see how a lot of these older Xbox One games are getting really cheap now. Like £3 for this. That is a hell of a lot of game for £3. If you're a fan of Fallout, definitely want to check this one out. But it's not just the Xbox One exclusives. Infamous Second Son and more for Infamous First Light are two fantastic exclusive for the PlayStation 4 and I guess the PlayStation 5. They're definitely both worth checking out. I think they've both been on the PlayStation Plus like bonus games at some point, but they're definitely fantastic games. You know I'm always going to check out the original Xbox games whenever I head into CX, and this is a game which has eluded me for the longest time. The Thing for the original Xbox is an absolutely amazing survival horror, paranoia-inducing scary game. It's a great one, gotta pick it up. Here we go then, another game for the 20 in 2022 Games Challenge. Resident Evil 4, on the way it was meant to be played on the Gamecube. I'm so glad to finally find a copy of this in the wild and add it, as I think it is a Gamecube game that everyone needs in their Gamecube collection. You have to own this game. I'm amazed at how quick CX turned games round. So I traded in these games, went round and bought some games, and by the time I bought those games up to the shelves, they were ready priced to go. And these are the games that somebody must have bought in just before me, as these were then lined up on a shelf to be put onto the shelves with the other games. And what a selection. Somebody traded in an absolutely incredible selection of PlayStation 3 games. Like, oh, there's just so many classics here. I'm just pulling out classic after classic after classic. Someone really broke up an absolutely beautiful PlayStation 3 collection, but yeah, if I'd had a bit more money to spend today, I'd have probably picked most of these games up. I had a couple in the collection, but great selection. Back to the charity shops, and something you don't see very often, that's sealed PlayStation 4 games in a charity shop. Sadly, there was nothing else inside the shop, but cool to see some sealed games in the window nonetheless. Back to the more classic charity shop, and we have a shelf of DVDs and hiding on top a small selection of Fifas. Seriously, every shop. I did have a quick rummage through my local bookshop which sells loads of cool comics, but sadly this time I didn't find anything too exciting. But this is like a charity bookshop and they do have a decent selection of comics, but sadly there was nothing that really took my fancy this time. It's one of those places you kind of have to keep checking all the time. Our next charity shop is one that is specifically marketed as a retro and vintage shop, and the problem is they do kind of price themselves according to this, knowing they have retro and old school stuff such as like FIFA and Fable 3 here from like a collector's edition, just like really overpriced. Like, so a lot of the games are overpriced, and I kind of think for my money these Star Wars Galaxy comics, even though they were super cool, were quite overpriced. Like, I know they're in very good condition, I know they're Star Wars, they're kind of retro comics, so let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I am being a bit tight or underestimating how much some of these comics are worth. I'd rather pick comics up for £1 to £2. Even though those were super cool, I'm not really going to pick them up for £5 each, but I know, I was tempted. What was I saying earlier? Don't see sealed games in charity shops. Another charity shop and another sealed PlayStation 4 game. And I thought this was actually a really good price for this. And yeah, I'm a fan of Worms, so I was tempted by this one. Also, there was some other games in here, some pretty good Wii games and some pretty good PlayStation 2 games. If I didn't have these in my collection, I'd have probably picked a few more of these up. They're pretty decent price, but not really cheap enough to flip. But if you needed them for your collection, these were some pretty well-priced games, which was nice to see. The final charity shop of the day in Norwich, and ending on an all-time low. Have you ever seen this many copies of Brain Training in one charity shop? Let me know, can you beat this many copies of Brain Training in just one charity shop? Let's try and find a winner down in the comments below. I did stop in a couple of charity shops in Wyndham on the way back for Norwich, and one of the first things I saw was this CD player which looked a little bit like a laptop. I'm a big fan of these kind of old school retro CD players, and I've never seen a CD player like this before. Right? It looks more like a laptop than a CD player. It's kind of cool, it's retro, it's 90s, and you know, last stop of the day, and I've said it once, I've said it a million times, one of my favourite ways to add games into the collection is just picking up these pound charity shop game pickups. Like, this is how you build a collection. It's not all about picking up the high value targets. Sometimes you just pick up these games for £1, either to flip or add into your collection. It's just a cheap way to game collect, to build your collection or build your CX credit. £1 to go, can't go wrong. But yeah, it was a good day of pickups. I got some great games for the Gamecube. Let's head home. Today may not have been the day that I added Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door into my Gamecube collection, but that day will come. But today was the day that I added the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition promotional disc. This is a game which has got more and more expensive over the years. I remember when this was 20 quid and I didn't get it. I remember when this was 30 quid and I still didn't get it. So this time, when I saw it in CX for 40 quid, I picked it up. But don't get me wrong, that is still incredible value for what you get on this disc. And I think this must have been the greatest pre-order thing of all time. You got this for free as a pre-order bonus. That is insane. There is so many Zelda games on here. You have The Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, The Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. There is so many games on this one disc. 4 absolutely classic games that I can now play on my Gamecube. If you do not have this in your Gamecube collection, you owe yourself to get it. for me, I think this is an absolute must-have GameCube game. Of course, we have loads of other awesome games we picked up this week, the first of which is Army of Two for the PlayStation 3. This is such a good couch co-op game. Yes, that is a phrase we're hearing less and less of these days, couch co-op. This is best played in co-op with a friend. It kind of gives me Gears of War vibes, but it's kind of a bit more tactical. And yeah, you just need to play it and find out for yourself. For £1, definitely happy to add this one to the collection. It's always good to add another Guitar Hero game into my collection, which I don't have. And I'm actually frankly surprised I didn't have Guitar Hero 3 for the PlayStation 3 already in my collection. This, pound for pound, has one of the best soundtracks of any of the Guitar Hero games, and as it's on the PlayStation 3, it's one of the ones which is probably going to get slightly more expensive. If you didn't know, the actual physical guitars for the PlayStation 3 are more expensive than on any other console, so always keep an eye out for those. The final pickup from that charity shop is FIFA 20, and this shows that everyone makes mistakes once in a while. I thought this game might trade in for something, so I bought it for £1. It turns out it trades in for even less than that. It's just ridiculous how quickly FIFA games lose their price, but I don't know, I guess I'll add to the collection. I think that is one of the best trips I've actually had to my local CX in a long while. A lot of the time there's not a lot of good stuff in there, but this week they just seem to have some really good stuff. First off, we have Wasteland 2, and if you are a fan of Fallout or kind of strategy-based RPGs, you need to check this one out. Word of warning, it does have a difficulty curve. It is pretty tough to get the hang of, and it is a hard game, but if you enjoy especially old school Fallout, I'm talking Fallout the original and Fallout 2, even Fallout Tactics, this is definitely a game you want to check out. The PlayStation 4 has so many awesome exclusives, but I think the Infamous First Light is one that no one seems to talk about. I think it is essentially a better, streamlined version of Infamous, and I actually prefer the character in this than the guy in Infamous, whose name escapes me a minute. He's just a bit of a douche. But yeah, this one is kind of a streamlined, kind of quicker experience. Think about it how like Spider-Man and Miles Morales are. This is more a streamlined version, and I think a better experience. A classic movie and also a classic game for the original Xbox is The Thing. I think this could be one of the best movies to video game transitions ever. This works so well. The feeling of paranoia and not knowing who is after you in this game is just paramount. It's such a tense game. It just captures the essence of that film so well. Definitely want to pick up and add to your original Xbox collection. Our final pickup this week, I don't think could come a better time. With the announcement they are finally remaking Resident Evil 4, I feel that like this game will get more and more expensive. So now is the perfect time to add it into the 20 in 2022 collection. It is the 9th game out of the 20 we have added, and yeah, I'm super excited to go back and revisit this game on the Gamecube the way it's meant to be played before they bring out the remake. I don't really know how you can improve on this. I think arguably this is the best Resident Evil game of all time. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think is the best Resident Evil game of all time? I think this one is easily in the top 3. Of course, this is fully complete. Remember, it is a double disc game, and you want this kind of hinge to be in here. And yeah, we are just about halfway through the 20 in 2022 game collection challenge. Let me know in the comments down below, do you think I'm going to get the other 11 games by the end of the year? So there we have it, another week of game hunting is in the bag, and the games are back in the games room where they belong. And I'm just so happy to add a couple of must-have GameCube games into my collection, and the 20 in 2022 game collection is coming along well. As always, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button, please subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.